Okay, so I hope you all enjoyed the pizza. Next up, we have Wade, who's going to be talking about a bot framework for doing digital assistants and chatbots.
Yep.
Called Project Mindstack, or is it just called Mindstack?
It is Mindstack, yeah.
So yeah, take it away, Wade. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries. Right, so hello, hello everyone. This is the first talk I've done in 3 or 4 years, so bear with me if I'm a bit rusty. So yeah, this is basically an open source project I started back in October last year. So it's called Mindstack. The idea behind it is it's a bot framework for developing voice assistants and chatbots. And just a bit of background, so I'm a web developer for Tribus Digital. We work on Kirkstall Road on the outskirts of Leeds. I'm a PHP developer by trade, but I actually spend half my time doing JavaScript. So don't let it put you off that I'm actually a PHP developer by trade. Yeah, so I'll jump straight in. Yeah, so first I'll kind of do like a marketing pitch for people who haven't really tried it yet, who maybe want to think about kind of getting into building voice assistants and chatbots. So I've just got a few studies from 2017. These are the latest ones I could find, just because they don't always release studies. They're normally doing like the 2018 ones will only be coming out like mid-2019. So yeah, there's just a few studies here. So 50% of all searches will be voice searches by 2020. These are just kind of speculations, but they've been done by companies that have been hired to do kind of marketing research. 1 in 10 people own a smart speaker, which equates to 6.6 million people. So it's quite a big audience for kind of building voice assistant applications now. So another study kind of brought up the locations where they're used most, which kind of infers what the common use cases would be for them. So obviously a lot of them are kind of entertainment, like living room and bedroom. But there's also the kitchen where people probably will have their hands kind of tied, so voice assistants help quite a lot. So in terms of chatbots, this is more leaning onto the AI side. So only 15% of enterprises use AI, but it's expected to kind of grow in the next year or so quite massively. So the second big next marketing trend is AI. So yeah, there's just a lot of kind of stats contributing to it's a kind of a good time to get into it. Currently on the job market as well, machine learning, deep learning and natural language processing are actually quite the most in-demand skills at the moment. And also the spending these companies will be putting towards these is going into the billions now, and it's kind of just doubling in value. So originally when I wanted to get into this, I was just building Alexa skills because I thought it was kind of an interesting thing to get into. But I noticed it was a bit lacking in certain aspects of what I wanted to do, and I was quite limited to the Amazon ecosystem in terms of developing apps for people. So I found a third-party spreadsheet that I'll just open it up. Oops. Yeah, so there's several companies that have kind of done their own solutions for chatbots and voice assistants. They all have the pros and cons, but looking at this table, I don't know if you'll be able to see it very well. Yeah, I'll kind of gloss over this because I don't expect to go through this massively. But basically, they all have the pros and cons. A lot of it depends on programming language, ecosystem, and you soon find whatever system you think of investing into, there's quite a lot of limitations. Oops. So with this in mind, I actually thought, looking at the current solutions that are on offer, that there's actually a better option for a framework that could be used to actually develop voice assistants and chatbots. So this is where I started kind of listing out the cons, the issues I had with the kind of current offerings. These are all in order, so I think the most important are at the top and the least important are at the bottom. So structure, so a lot of these applications that you build, the architecture is not actually that great in terms of giving you a solid boilerplate as well as kind of a starting option. Like with Alexa skills, it does give you some good starters, but then in terms of actually structuring your applications, like you maybe would with a MVC application, you kind of have to improvise your own architecture. And often when you do this, as I learn, a lot actually comes back to bite you, just in terms of the way you want to lay things out and making sure that your code, coming on to the next point, that you don't end up with spaghetti code. So obviously when you're building quite advanced things and there's no solid structure to go by and kind of improvising, as soon as you've got quite a bit of functionality, the code just gets really messy and unmaintainable. So moving on to the third point, markup. So a lot of different services, mainly on the kind of chatbot side, so if you're using stuff like Slack, WhatsApp, Discord, stuff like that, they've all got their own markup languages for templating responses. This is fine, but if you're doing a lot of different services, they've all got their own unique markup twists and file formats, and it's quite a lot of investment, and you feel like you're investing into a specific ecosystem rather than a real skill. SSML seems to be the standard for speech markup, so I think kind of investing in that does make sense, but being able to utilise that in other places other than Amazon services would be good. And then service APIs, so in terms of hooking into third-party services or building your own APIs, again that process is quite improvised. You don't get a lot of the bot frameworks I've looked at that don't actually really consider APIs. They kind of leave it up to you to decide how you want to hook it up. To me that just kind of seems lazy. It just makes it so much harder to integrate what you might think are essential services. If you've got customers that have common services that they use a lot of services now that we do, we rely on services applications like Elasticsearch and stuff like that. So it's, yeah. The next point is unintelligent. So obviously the big push with AI now is that we're wanting to make bots a lot smarter so they can almost replace humans in terms of departments like customer service, Q&As, things like that. Currently, a lot of the offerings, you can ask it something, and it'll kind of have no idea what you're on about if you say it in a certain way, if you don't use certain keywords. So it kind of leaves a lot to be desired. And from a user perspective who knows nothing about code, interacting with AI systems is still quite. People are still quite reluctant because they don't trust that they're powerful enough yet. And the last one is lack of personality. So obviously, with a lot of systems, the main reason people go to them is because they're easy to use, they're nice to use. If you've got an AI and it's not exactly nice to use, people are going to be put off by it. Yeah. So the solution I came up with is a open source project I started called Mindstack. So if you search my GitHub username, which is True Media, or if you just search on npm Mindstack, I'm currently uploading any code related to that on those platforms. So yeah, it started last year. It's a bit beefy in size, just because anything with a lot of AI is now, but you can actually build a bot with it in less than 20 lines of code. I currently have example code, adapters, skills. There's also some other kind of architecture specific points which I'll get into in later slides, but the idea behind it is that regardless of what you want to build, you've got a solid way of planning it out and picking. I guess the good thing is being able to pre-pick code that you know is already going to work for a very specific purpose, while still maintaining a stack that works with your current way of working. Yeah, so this is the architecture I came up with, just in terms of separation of concerns, and actually getting the bot up and running. So adapters, this is basically a name I give to third-party packages for integrating the bot into. So whatever service you want to use a bot on, you just find the adapter or create the adapter. So I've created some so far. The main one is Terminal and Discord. I did also start on the Slack one, which just means if you set up a bot and just add one line to say use adapter, then as long as you've got the right credentials in an end file, you should be able to basically use it straight away. So there's no real setup or massive learning curve to getting set up. The next part is data services. So this is building a bit on the last talk at LeedsJS. So something that I recently integrated was the idea of relying on a Jamstack for data. So with that using GraphQL, and the idea behind Jamstack being that you can use data sources and build them all into one kind of central point of truth. I thought basically any data that you want to push to and from the bot, it would actually be good to use that GraphQL layer. So inside the bot itself, you can actually declare the endpoint for a data service. So by default, because the currently biggest Jamstack projects at the moment is Gatsby, which is the kind of React ecosystem. I've done a preset for that, as well as a new project called Gridsum, which is basically the Vue.js equivalent of Gatsby. I'm actually a maintainer on that project, and I've helped kind of, because I've done a Gatsby plugin as well. So I'm just kind of looking at helping that kind of ecosystem be just as available as Gatsby to people who are more familiar with the Vue.js ecosystem. So the next one is human interfaces. So obviously the big one at the moment is kind of natural language, but there's several different layers that people are kind of expecting and experimenting with now. So there's three main layers where it's kind of natural human interfaces. So voice, texting, and also vision-based stuff like gestures. So these are split up into three categories. So there's NLU, which is natural language understanding, which is the text layer. So you know any kind of text interactions anyone has with the AI, there is going to be within that realm. SRL, which is speech recognition layer, that's going to be a voice layer, which basically sits on top of the NLU layer, and it basically gets routed down to the NLU layer once it can translate your any audio into actual text. And then there's the CVA layer, which is computer vision algorithms, which is basically specialized scripts for understanding basically input from a camera or images. So like I said, the common ones, gestures. There's also stuff with recognizing objects, and just the idea behind it is being able to pull in lots of data from the real world without having to spend too much time actually coding it. The next one, these will probably be familiar to anyone who's done Alexa. Similar to root in MVC, intents are basically just roots, and these are just predefined action names that basically tell you how you're going to map what somebody says to what the bot's actually going to do. The lexicon is basically a dictionary of words and phrases that the bot will understand. The idea behind this is that at the moment, a lot of the work around AI, people have to get a lot of learning data for the bot to understand. But by basically standardising dictionary libraries in a way where the bot can infer a lot more context, allows you to not need as much manual input for learning data. Persona is basically looking at making the bot kind of more appealing, more natural, just in terms of styling, matching a site's theme, and maybe changing the language a little bit if it needs to be more formal or informal. Resolvers, so these are basically your functions that actually do anything once the root has been found. So the majority of your logic for your bots will actually sit in the resolvers, and then the resolvers are actually tied into skill sets, where a skill set will have multiple resolvers. So skill sets are basically like independent packages where you have specialised skill sets. So like the basic one I've got of an AI that can basically say hello and goodbye. A skill set that can be used for a store, so you can ask how much a product costs, you can actually purchase products. Another one would be like a blog post one, where you can ask it what the latest is. And the last three slots are basically just dynamic information derived from a conversation. So something the AI wouldn't necessarily understand up front. It can basically learn and infer from a conversation based on you pre-programming a way for it to kind of learn what information to look out for as dynamic information. Template files. So the idea behind this is that, similar to MVC, any conversations you need a template for. So with speech it will be SSML. Because there's so many templating languages, I personally prefer handlebars, so I tend to lean towards that. But I thought because it needs to be a framework that everyone can approach, I've actually integrated JS Transformer, which is a library that basically lets you use probably 99% of template languages. So basically you can write templates in Twig, handlebars, JSX, probably whichever format you prefer. And then utterances, which is basically the only real human aspect to it, where you just build in what the bot is actually going to be looking out for on a whole. So currently the only 100% working adapter is terminal. This is just because the code base has gone through quite a few changes, so the other adapters at the moment are kind of just need amending to be up to date with this. But the idea with this as well is that basically you can test the functionality of the AI without using a third-party service. So you can get this set up on a laptop or a desktop, and you can test without any latency between a third-party chat service or needing to call to APIs to get data. So it's you can iteratively code away without any real restriction. Skill sets at the moment, there should be two, I forgot to add the other one in. So there's a basic skill set at the moment where you can just install it, and basically if you say hello or goodbye to the bot, it'll give you hello and goodbye back. The other skill set I'm going to be showing is the blog skill set, where you can ask it what the latest is, and it'll basically give you the most recent blog post for a site. The only reason there's a very limited amount of skill sets at the moment is because I've worked on this on my own, so it is quite easy to build skills for it now, but I've just not had the time to really flesh it out for something a bit more impressive. So the languages side, currently obviously going to be doing the English side. I've looked into the multilingual functionality in terms of making it a possibility that you can talk to regardless of what actual language you talk to the bot, it can actually understand and respond to you in the language it received. So currently this is going to be working for English and Japanese, but if you want to contribute, it should work for any other language, even if it's like another one I looked up is LeedsJS. In terms of the thing with LeedsJS is it's much more approachable in terms of a computer being able to understand the conversation, because it's a scientifically derived language, I believe. Might be wrong saying that. So yeah, live demo, I guess. Oops. Yeah, so I've basically got it set up on my laptop. So it's comprised of several components. I'll bring up the diagram on the screen. So this is what the architecture looks like in terms of all the separate bits working together to actually do anything with it. So like I said, you've got the adapters layer where you pick the services that you want to make the bot available on. And then you've got your human interactions you want to support. Currently on supports NLU, but there is planned support for SRL and CVA. Basically, whenever anybody interacts with any instance of the bot, regardless of what service it's on, that request gets normalized by the adapter into a request that goes into a queue. Currently, it's, I think, RabbitMQ that I'm using. And basically, there'll be workers in the background that look for any requests. And it'll pass them into processors that basically translate the type of request. So if it's an NLU request, it'll have a pipeline specific to NLU to process it into something the skill can understand. I've missed out a layer there, but there is a layer that actually tries to be on the NLU request, translating that, figuring out exactly which skill that it should use based on the intent name. So when it goes into the skill has several handlers. So it'll pick the right handler. Oh, sorry, no, handler's singular. Resolves them. Yeah. So it'll get to the resolver. In the resolver, basically, you have a chance to pass information back to the adapter. So if you sent a message to the bot on Slack, it'll know to get back to you on Slack. But within that resolver layer, you pick what actually happens with where it's done. So if you've said hello to it, it'll basically have a chance to decide how it should respond back. In my case, I've got it going off to the middle layer, the Jamstack website. So the demo I'm going to show you is actually using a combination of a bot, a website, and a native app. Like I said, Jamstack, it seems like a good choice for serving as an intermediate layer as well as having the website there. Yeah, so I think I'll probably best show next, it's quite a long there. Yeah, so there's 5 different scripts I've actually got to run, because there's quite a few bits to it. So the first thing you do is initialize the pipeline that you want to use. So this is the NLU pipeline. I know why that is, 1 second. So basically this is an NLU pipeline, so it's a specialized server to deal with any NLU requests. So this is actually using Rasa.
Can you up the screen?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I'm getting old.
Is that right? Is that okay? Yeah. Yeah, so we've got the NLU pipeline, which is a Rasa server. Oops. Can't minimize it now. I'll bring a link up to that. Yeah, so Rasa NLU is a Python library which can basically run as a server to deal with any requests. So that part of the equation, you only have to worry about that running for it to actually do things. The next step for me is to run what I call the Headless Cms for this setup. So looking back at the diagram, so this is in my case it'd be Strappy. So I just need to run a script to start it. Yep, so I've got that up and running now. I'm just going to load up the CMS itself so you can understand a bit of where the data is coming from. Yep, so this is the CMS that I've got running. So this is serving as my primary layer for putting information into both the website, the bot, and the app. So I've got some salutations, which is basically the hellos and goodbyes. So when it does actually respond, it's only going to be in a way that I actually set in the CMS. And also with the blog posts. So I've got 3 blog post articles, and basically this is going to be the data source where I put those in. And I don't have to worry about distributing these, because that's dealt with it's dealt through the 3 layers. So you'll see this on the website, you'll be able to get this information from the bot, and you'll be able to see it in the app. So the next step is launching up GridSum. So GridSum is the Vue.js equivalent of Gatsby. So it's the Jamstack website. So this gives you access to a static site generator as well as a GraphQL playground for doing requests. So if I go on, yep, so you can already see the first thing is I've got my blog posts loaded up here. So these are the same blog posts that I put in the Strapi side. So if I update these or edit them, add more, as long as I reload GridSum, it'll show up there, and I don't have to worry about how that's getting pulled through. So the next step would be the bot side. I'll leave the app one to last because that's only like a bonus. Yeah, so I've got a bot set up with the adaptive terminal, so I can basically chat to it straight through the terminal. It's just listening out for messages at the moment. So if I just say hello to it, it'll show me what it's doing in the process and how it's working. So I can see from Rasa, because basically the Rasa server that's running in the first terminal has received a request, it's sent a response. It's saying it's recognised that I'm doing a greeting to it. It's shown me some samples of how it normally expects that to happen, and it's given me a response just saying hi. And again, this is a response. The way this skill is set up, it actually picks a random greeting. So you can see it's one that I've already put through the CMS. Works the same with goodbye. And then basically the more advanced skill I've got where it'll pull through the latest blog posts. If I just say news, or if I want to say more naturally, I can say what's in the news. And it gives me the latest blog post. So again, that's pulled through Strapi. So the way the bot's doing it is it's communicating with the GridSum layer, so the GraphQL layer that GridSum provides, but Strapi's feeding into the GridSum layer. So GridSum will always be the source of truth for the bot. So the final one is the native app. So if I just run the script to run up Vue native, which again it's kind of a borrowed idea from the React ecosystem. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run an iPhone simulator with a app that I've built. It's only a very simple one that uses the same GraphQL layer. sorry, it does take like, yeah, so there it is. So those are my 3 blog posts. So like I said, the main idea behind this is that I've basically got an approach, even though it is mainly for bots, this approach, I've got an approach to basically deal with 3 different layers that a customer might interact with this instance, but I've only got one area where I can put in data. And even then, with that approach, you're not exactly limited to a single CMS, because the Jamstack side actually uses consolidated sources. So if you did want to pull through data from other places like Facebook or Twitter, so you could pull through Twitter conversations, Facebook likes, make that information available to both the bot and the app, and then again just reuse that GraphQL layer to be able to pull it through on both. So that's the presentation itself. So there's a link to repositories here. The main one is, I think I might have already had that open. Yeah, so the main repo is just Mindstack. So if you search it on under my username, it'll be on npm soon. I'm just getting through to the process of publishing the main library. All the individual repos it relies on, as well as the server requirements, are on there. The commands for getting things up and running. All the options you have for existing adapters, different bits and bobs that you can use. The idea behind it is that it's going to be as easy as some of the other solutions it's relying on at the moment to set up. So you have a command line tool to basically run a new project to generate the code. Just add one-liners in to get bits done. I'll try loading up the code example I'm using at the moment. Yeah, so it's just this index.js file, which is basically all the work I've had to get the bot working. There's only a lot of command outlines because I'm basically experimenting with the different parts. So yeah, there's not really that much code to it at all to kind of get it to that point. Yep. So in terms of if anyone wants to contribute, I actually run a meetup group at the moment specific to this project called Bot Framework Group. It's been a while since I've organised a meetup for it just because it's still kind of relatively new. If you just search it on the meetup app, it'll come up. I'm planning to do kind of a meetup for every 2 to 3 weeks in City Centre. Everything to do with this is open source. You're free to contribute whatever you want. I'm the only person working on this project at the moment. Wrapping up, if you've got any questions, you can ask me at the end. You can find me on GitHub, Twitter and YouTube if you just search my name. And then yeah, the last bit about recruiting. Just if you're looking for a JavaScript job, send your CV to Travis Digital at that email address. Thank you. Yes.
So thank you very much, Wade. Wow, there's a lot there.
Yeah.
How have you done? How long have you been working on that? Did you say?
October.
Since October. That's a lot to do since October.
A lot of it is kind of cheating, as much as it doesn't look like it.